Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, make sure you subscribe because you're going to want to listen to this episode, play it back over for you, your friends, your cousins, your brother. My brother Dave is going to drop some knowledge. We're going to be talking about how without health, there is no wealth. There is no good in having all the planes, trains, automobiles, and then putting you in the ground and letting your wife, new boyfriend, have all your stuff. So, guys, make sure you listen to this carefully. Dave, brother, welcome to the show.
Oh, Richard, so excited to be here, man. This is an honor and a privilege. So pumped to be chatting with you.
Bro, you've done it all. I mean, you are a serial entrepreneur, father, husband. You've had it all, almost lost it all. Now you have it all again with an amazing. You're CEO of a brand new amazing company. So tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you became the man that you are today.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of have one of those stories of always being the one that was overlooked and had the deck stacked against me, as it were. I was born to a teenage mother. My parents married and are still together. Grew up in a military family. My dad was an Air Force pilot, and there was a lot that they taught me. But one of the lessons that was super, frustrating as a kid, Richard, and I'm so grateful that they taught me, was never give up, never quit. And so growing up, I had this spirit of entrepreneurship. My dad had been an entrepreneur while he was in ROTC in college, where he'd built up a small landscaping company and he'd sold it by the time he was 23. And it was in the 80s, so selling it for $30,000 was a good chunk of change, especially for a 24-year-old. And I just had that kind of spirit around me. And so when I was a kid, I started selling candy bars out of my backpack in elementary school, and erasers and pens and all sorts of stuff. And then my first real, grown-up business I started at the age of 25. I started a catch-all digital marketing agency, and it became very successful. We were doing seven figures by the time I was 29, and went to the doc, and he did a stress test because I thought, I'm 29, I'm about to turn 30. I haven't had a physical since I was in high school. And doc came back and he said, hey, so Dave, how do you know when you're going to have a heart attack? And I was like, I don't understand what you're asking, doc. He goes, how do you know when you're about to have a heart attack? And I was like, doc, I really don't understand. What are you trying to tell me, the symptoms? Like, what do you mean? He goes, you're 29 years old. We've tested 4,500 people. You're the most stressed out person we've ever tested. If you don't change your habits and behaviors, you're not going to make it to 40, man. That beautiful daughter that you've got, that brand new son, you're not going to get to see him graduate, let alone walk your daughter down the aisle. And so I went, man, I've got this incredible success. I'm making more money than I ever have. I'm being successful in all the ways that I was told were the ways to be successful. And it wasn't going to work. And so that literally started this process of going, how do I run businesses? How do I find success and not kill myself in the process? And over the past 6.5 years now, that's really been what I've been up to, is like, how do I get there? And in the process, what we've done is we've gone from having one company that does seven figures to I now own a piece or an entirety of 8 different companies, and 6 out of the 8 are doing seven figures right now today or more. And I get to live in the mountains, in the woods, on a pristine river with my wife and 3 kiddos. And it's a fabulous life, man.
All right. So my first question I usually ask, I just forgot to ask because I'm so excited to be able to hang out and chat today. What is your definition of resiliency?
It's understanding when something's broken and then making a decision to make it better instead of just pushing through, right? Too many people, they say resiliency and they're like, man, I'm just going to push through. And it's like, actually, to be resilient, if we think about that word in any other context, it's to bounce back, right? And so it's like, can you bounce back in a way that's different than just pushing through?
Okay. Now, a lot of people when they get diagnosed or they with a health issue, especially you're 29 years old, you got a 18-month old at home. You feel like you're on top of the world, but you're stressed out to the max. But obviously, that day, the next day, you had to have emotions, mixed emotions. You had to think, this is bullshit. But then you're like, wait, but if I don't do this, he says I'm not going to make it. So there had to be some kind of mindset shift in the couple of days afterwards, because you don't normally just going from working 100 hours a week, eating bonbons and eating all the crap, to all of a sudden you wake up and you're eating healthy. There had to be some kind of process. So talk to us about the process.
Yeah, one of the things that happened in my early entrepreneurial career, in my high school years, I was a multi-sport athlete. I played soccer, football, played baseball up through middle school. I was a weightlifter competitively. Like I was an athlete, and I had neglected to work out, because I had small kids. I had a young, my wife and I were young, and I had this growing business that needed my attention. And so after I had that conversation with the doc, I just went, okay, what are the practices that you should be keeping that you're not keeping right now that could be beneficial, right? And so for me, the first thing that I started doing was like, you got to get out and exercise, man. Like, and I'm living in Texas, and I'm like, it's a million degrees outside in the summertime, just terribly hot. But I went, you can get a gym membership for $60 a month or whatever to Lifetime Fitness, and you can go work out in the air conditioning. So go do that. And I would just make it a point to say like, hey, let's go do it once a week at first, because I had the intelligent thought, Richard, which doesn't always occur, but I had the intelligent thought to go once a week is better than 0 times a week. So just get out and go do it. Where I'd say, hey man, just go for a walk this morning. If you make it a quarter of a mile, you can stop. So I don't have to go crazy far. I don't need to do a mile. I don't need to do 4. Can you make it a quarter of a mile? That's all you got to do. Once you do that, you can come home if you're not feeling it. But if you're still feeling great, go have it. And so I really started incorporating that back into it. That really happened a couple days after that conversation. I just went, okay, at first I was in denial. There's no way. I'm 29. But then I really started to think about, I really have neglected myself. I really am the most important person in this company. It was interesting at the time, Richard, owning a digital agency. I had all these people that were working for me that were very, very intelligent. They're talking with clients. Our clients are paying us a good bit of money every month. I think our smallest client at the time was paying us about $2,000 a month, but our biggest client was paying us over $20,000 a month to engage with them. And I would have approval on everything that went through the agency. But at the end of the day, the clients always wanted to talk to me. And so that was one of the keys that I started to realize over the next coming weeks was, how do I build a business in such a way that the clients know that I exist and I'm not their point of contact? Because what kept happening as I looked at it over the next several weeks was, man, I have my account manager show them, hey, this is what we're going to do. Dave approved the plan. And they go, hey, this is great. We love this plan. Can Dave fly to New York in a couple weeks and come present this to our board? Hey, this is fantastic. We've had to make some changes. We need Dave in Knoxville like 3 weeks from now. We'll pay for his flight and his hotel. We'll pay for his time, but we need him here. And so a lot of what started to transpire was really just going, okay, I can take some immediate steps right now to change my health physically. And then I also need to change the way that I run the business. And that took longer, but it was work worth doing.
Okay, now like you've talked earlier, I had Dave Meltzer come on the show, and we all know Dave's story. They wrote the movie. I can't even remember the name of the movie now, but he talks about how the night before he's supposed to be at work, his wife catches him on TV with Lil Jon at the Grammys, and she tells him when she gets home, listen, it's either the family or the business.
That's right.
So he had a $100 million company. And, Jerry Maguire was the movie that they wrote about him. So he had the next couple of weeks, he's like, all right, It's going to be family first, then business. So he lost $100 million in the meantime, but he started putting his health as a priority. He started putting his family as a priority. And he said, a lot of people, when they become successful, they put everything else in blocks except calling mom, except spending time with your kids, except for your health. Everything else gets planned except for the real stuff that's really important. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 1,000%. One of the things, and it took me, I wish I could have said it only took me another few weeks to figure out after I had that conversation with the doc. It took me longer. But one of the things that I figured out, Richard, was, man, I'm never going to have this time when my kids are little again. It's just not going to happen. It won't. They're never going to get to have the experience of dad when they're so small that they fit in my hands, so little that I can carry them. And I used to have these moments early on in those around that time period where I would be working very late at night, very early in the morning, and I would miss some beautiful experiences with my kids. I would miss some beautiful time with my wife. And it was because I really thought, man, I just got to keep going. I got to keep pushing. I got to keep hustling. And there's a lot of wisdom from what Dave's saying there, because, right now, one of the practices that I love to keep, it's a stoic philosophy principle. I tuck my kids in every night. Like, I'm not going to wake up in the morning, or they're not going to wake up in the morning. How long would you take? How much would you savor those moments? And so what ends up happening is that those times become sacred, and they become something that's so special to me that you don't worry about, hey, well, I've got to send these emails. Guess what? There's always going to be another email to send, man. There's always going to be somebody that needs to hear back from you. There's always going to be another sale that you can make. Always. But you're only going to have a few short, sweet years where your kids are like, hey, daddy, can you come tuck me into bed? Hey, can you snuggle with me on the couch? My feelings are hurt. My brother hurt my whatever, right? And so just enjoying those moments and realizing that that's what's really going to matter. Because if I make it to 60 and my kids think I was a shitty dad and that I wasn't there for them, and now all of a sudden I want to be in their life and hopefully be around for their kids when they're around, what a waste, man.
Yeah, and this really hits home because last night I'm sitting there watching the Chiefs game. I got my fantasy football team going, and my 10-year-old says, "Daddy, can you bring me to bed?" And I was like, "No, there's a Chief." And then I'm going, "All right, I'll be there in a minute."
Yeah.
Because I realized that there's going to be a moment where she's not going to ask me to put her to bed anymore.
Right.
And I'm like, it's not that important. I'm not a Kansas City Chief. It's not that important. But, like a lot of people, I just lost my dad on Valentine's Day this year. And I realized, moments, there's always going to be one moment where that's the last time.
Yep.
And I believe that our children deserve our presence way more than our presents.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So talk about, your business, because now all of a sudden, you're the guy putting in 80, 100-hour weeks. And now all of a sudden, sometimes, like as I'm learning now, as we start getting more successful, that sometimes the best answer is no.
Yeah.
Sometimes, no, I can't.
Yeah.
If it's not God, family, or business, no, I can't. And I'm okay with saying that, but I always used to feel bad for saying no. But sometimes saying yes is even worse for your health than saying no once, right?
Yeah, I think it became one of those things where I had a mind shift probably 3 years ago, right around this time, right around Thanksgiving of 2019. I started to realize what people were paying me for instead of what I thought they were paying me for. There's the thing that people pay us for that we talk about. So a lot of my companies, they serve small businesses. They're in marketing, PR, sales. I do consulting with different agency owners and such. I own SaaS products. We have a flight school. But you know what I sort of realized, Richard, was like all those, I sell on, hey, we're going to help you make some money. But they're paying me. If I show up to anything, they're paying me to be away from my family. And so I've had people that I've talked to that I really respect. They're like, man, I won't ever take a dime to go do a keynote speech or something like that. And there could be some strategy behind that that'll help you out. I look at it and I go, man, they're paying me to be away from my babies and my wife. So it better be some serious change. And so my mindset shift, man, that's tough for me to say.
You just want to say shit all over the place.
I know, man. My mindset shift is, hey, when people engage with me now, I'm like, all right, is this worth me not spending time with my babies? My oldest is about to turn 9 at the end of this month. My youngest is 4. If I'm lucky, I'm gonna have another 9.5, 10 years with my oldest before she goes to school or starts her own life on her own. Man, that's not that long. I just looked down and she was just brand new. And so, so I think that's really the big shift for me in mindset there. And I think that I just have realized too that there are better ways to leverage my time. So I used to work 80, 100-hour work weeks, like you were saying. Now it's 35 to 50. Sometimes I need to put in 50 hours. Like something happens. But that can't be the norm. The norm needs to be, how can I find smart ways to leverage my expertise to benefit the companies that I own the best? And that usually means that I'm creating really highly leveraged pieces of content, information, insight. I'm very picky about the meetings that I take and don't take. And I'm very specific about who I'm going to work with and who I'm not going to work with and what that looks like. And that in turn has meant that, our family finances have been a lot easier and lighter to manage because I'm not out there starving all the time looking for new business and hustling for it. We've been able to build it in such a way that it all works as a team and in unison together.
And one thing somebody once said that came on the show last week, they said, the most expensive thing that you have is time, because that's one thing you can never get back. You can get back the houses, the cars, the pools, you can get back all that stuff, but you can't buy back a minute at a time. So you can make every moment, count. But I want to dig a little bit deeper in that. But first, I want to thank our sponsors. As you guys know, I wrote a book a couple years ago. It's now hit #1 twice because of it being in this magazine. It's hit #1 twice in addiction and recovery. So if anybody knows anybody struggling with anything from addiction, recovery, mental health, pick up the book. 100% of the proceeds go to help veterans struggling with homelessness and mental health issues. Also, if you guys want to start your own show, we're actually going to give you cash to start your own show. So if you want to have a show like this, you can actually get a branded show just like this, and we're going to give you cash to start your own business. So I just want to thank you guys. Thank you so much for letting us hit #1 twice. I'm so blessed and honored and grateful. So now, like we talked about earlier, now a lot of our guys and girls that are watching this show, they are veterans that became entrepreneurs. So we call them vetrepreneurs. So, we get out from the military. We're all hard charging. We're used to working 68 hours a week. We never work till the clock. We just work till shit gets done. So, once we get out and we become entrepreneurs, what should we know before we even start the entrepreneurial game if we want to be a real success in life?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, Richard, one of the interesting things about my life is I have a decent sized following on TikTok, which is fun because I shouldn't be on TikTok, but nevertheless, there I am. And I get asked a lot of questions like this, like, hey, I'm looking to start a business. What should I know? How do you start so many successful businesses? What does that look like? So one of the things is when I started my first company, I had a full-time gig and I did the business on the side. And I did that for 18 months. And my wife said to me, hey, Dave, we have a newborn It was our first kiddo. And I never see you and she never sees you. And you can either do the business or you can do the day job. I don't care which one you pick, but I need you to pick one. And so pick the business. But nevertheless, it's going to take some time and energy and effort. One of the things that I see a lot is that people are like, man, I can just turn a switch and all of a sudden the business is going to run. And it's not. It's going to take you some time. The biggest reason why it takes people time at this point, Richard, they're putting leverage in the wrong spots. They don't know what they don't know. And one of the gifts of this current day and age, there's an incredible amount of information. But like I like to say, we are information rich and we are wisdom poor. And so one of the gifts of having podcasts is that you're able to hear a lot of stories and gain wisdom from other people without having to actually do any of the stuff, mess up in a lot of the ways that I'm sure people that have been guests on this podcast have talked about, including myself. So if you're like, hey, I'm a vet, I'm looking to start a business, I don't know what to do, I've got drive, I'm a hard worker, where do I go? I always like to talk about the 4 different ways that you can really provide a product or a service that can help people. So number one, because we get all confused about what we can do, but these 4 spots that I'm about to talk about, they're the actual 4 spots that I have seen consistently win over time. And it's all about how you position these. I'm a branding, marketing, and sales guy, so I'm all about how you talk about stuff. But it's one of these 4 things. So number one is, hey, I'm going to improve your relationships, right? So you can have a coaching thing. Hey, I'm going to help you be a better dad. I'm going to help you be a better mom. I'm going to help you engage with your parents as they age differently. I'm going to help you engage with romantic partners. That's another way that you can help. There are a myriad of different ways you can do this, from coaching to writing books to even things like, they'll be like, well, hey, what about selling someone a Rolex or a BMW or something? I'm like, hey, that's all about status. Where's the only place that status is valuable? Relationships, right? So it's all about improving people's relationships in one fashion. So that's one. Number 2 is, I can improve your health, right? If I'm a gym owner or I'm a coach or something like that, hey, I can help you improve your health physically and help you have some longevity there. I could, BetterHelp, they're that online counseling program. Well, theirs is about mental and emotional health, right? So it's understanding that those are the things there. The 2 places that I really love to play. Now, those are both good and valuable. Those are going to be business, you as a business owner to a consumer. One of the things that's great about a B2C model is that you have lots of people you can sell to. Lots and lots and lots of people you can sell to. One of the things that's tough about that is your price or how much you're making per customer goes way down. Right? I have very good friends that own coffee shops. They're extremely successful in the coffee shops that they run. They're not making a whole lot of money. So if you're like, hey, I need to make a whole lot of money faster, business to consumer is going to be a harder lift for you than doing a business to business model, which is the 2 things I'm going to talk about right now. So in business to business, you can also do this one business to consumer as well. You can save someone time. So that would be number 3. Hey, I'm going to make it so that you don't have to do as much, Richard. I want you to be able to spend more time with your family. Okay, that's super valuable. To the point of your previous guest, can't get any time back. It's the one resource that's not renewable. Great. Number 4 is, I can either increase your revenue, so I can make you more money that way, or I can increase your profits, which is another way to make you money. That's the space that I love to live in, is, hey, I'm going to make you more money. Because what does everybody want? Hey, man, I want to be able to have more money. Why? Because it's going to give me more freedom. Why? So that I can spend more time with my family, so I don't have to worry about paying the bills. So one of my favorite places to live, and this is for people that are listening, if you're like, hey, I don't know what to do, I know that I want to do something. Is there a service or a product that you can provide to another business that's going to have high leverage on increasing their top line revenue or their bottom line profit, so that they're making more money? Because if you can, then that service, that product is very, very valuable. And that's where I really center all the businesses that I run. Even the flight school, it's based out of Fort Worth, Texas. that's really an investment for 90% of the students that we have. They want to go to the airlines. Well, first year in the airlines right now, if you're a regional airline pilot at like American Eagle, let's say, they're making $100,000 a year. So if we get them in and they're going to do a program that's $90,000, and then we're going to take the top 30% of our class, we're going to give them a job straight out of their training with us after 11 months to be a flight instructor, they're going to make $30 an hour, and they're going to go from that to making $100K a year in year one, 2 years later. It's a pretty good investment in yourself to make some good money. So I think that it's really sitting down with yourself and understanding those 4 different models of places where you can really benefit consumers and other businesses, understanding what it is that you need. You have to be very self-reflective about this. How much time do you need to put in? How much money do you need to make? What do you want your lifestyle to look like? And then based off that, understanding your expertise and your lack of expertise in some areas, because I'm weak in some areas for sure. Then it's like, okay, how do I move forward? Who are the people that I need to put around me? Planning that out strategically is going to be vital to your success.
One thing, and I love everything you're saying. One thing, I put out a post today that, I was listening to an interview with Kobe Bryant, and he said, you know what? He said, I'm a scorer. He says, I can shoot. He says, I'm not 7 foot. I'm not going to be blocking shots. He says, I stay in my lane, but I dominate my lane. And I think a lot of people, like you said, when you're small, when people start out and they start out a business, they start thinking they're going to talk to everybody. And like Jim Rohn says, if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody.
That's right.
So, talk to us a little bit about that. When you're starting a company, like my mentor is John Lee Dumas. And he could be that, if you want to find out who your perfect avatar is, sometimes you got to go an inch wide, but a mile deep to find out who you're talking to. So talk to us a little bit about that, because I'm sure you had to do that to start becoming so successful. You had to start really narrowing down who you needed to speak to in order to get the business.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's a little bit of trial and error. To your point, Richard. So often we're like, well, I think it's this person, and it may be that ideal customer persona. It may be the first one that you pick. But what I found early on in my career was I wanted to work with people that I liked. So in my first agency, I was like, man, I want to help nonprofit organizations because I like people that are doing good work for other people. It's one of the reasons why I was so excited to chat with you, Richard. And then I love people that work hard and make products that I like. So I really wanted to work with brewery owners and distillery owners because those are people that I know personally. They work their tail off. Most people don't see that, but they're hardworking people, and I see myself as a hardworking person. And what I figured out really quickly was that while those people do need help, that I could provide them. They don't have a whole lot of cash. Nonprofits are trying to squeeze pennies out of dollars so that they can make it go further. And breweries put so much of their money into equipment and operations, their margins are very, very thin.
Yeah.
And so the change that I had to make was go, okay, what are the high margin places and industries where if I come in, I say, hey, look, it's $3,500 a month to work with me. We're going to have a 6 to 12 month agreement. And then I may have some advertising spend on top of that. That's a few $1,000s a month. Who's that going to be easy for to say yes to? Right. So it's either going to be larger companies. So someone that's doing over 5 million a year in revenue. And then I can talk to some of those breweries and nonprofits like that. That's totally doable. Or it's going to be someone that has a higher margin product or service. And then I can go after someone that's maybe doing $750,000 a year, $1 million a year, and maybe charge those prices. But I have to be really thoughtful about who I'm targeting here. So a lot of that, it helps when you go through it or you listen to somebody that's there. So one of the things that I'm able to do now, Richard, is because I've owned so many different companies and so many different life stages of where they come in and whatnot. I kind of know right now, like, hey, if you're doing under $500,000 a year in revenue and you're selling a product or a service, you're just fighting to survive. Every day, you're just trying to keep it going, trying to fight to survive. Once you get over $500,000, that person, you're usually able to finally hire a person that really complements one of your weaknesses, right? So you may be strong in sales and marketing like myself, but I'm poor in operations. Well, once I was doing about $500,000 in my first business, I was able to hire a pretty good operator. Then when I got to $1 million plus, I start to go, okay, how can I scale this thing without killing myself? You know? And that's a different conversation. And so if you understand the psyche of who you're talking to, it's going to help you kind of understand what you're going to charge, who you're going to talk to, and all that stuff. But I love what you said, Richard, and it's so true, which is it's way better to go deep than broad. It's way more effective. If you have a total addressable market of 1,000 people, but you know all 1,000 people and they know you, you're going to make way more sales. Because in my experience, whether it's to consumers or to businesses, 90% of sales is I like that person. So those are my thoughts there.
Yep. And like I got trained. I was with GNC for over 30 years, and the gentleman that trained me, he was a franchisee, but he taught me everything that he knows in the back end. But unfortunately, he became the guy that was known, and where if his car wasn't there, people would just drive by because they knew he wasn't there. So if he wasn't there, the money dropped. And I think a lot of people, they start companies and they're the head of the company, they're the face of the company. And then if they, start taking some time off, business drops because the people don't know any different. Yeah. So when you started to kind of pull back a little bit and let other people do some of the work, what was that thought process and what was that like? What did that look like?
Yeah, I had to start to be really frank with people, so I just start to tell clients all the time, you don't want me working on your account. You don't want me working on what you're doing. I'm a great big vision person. I'm a great strategic thinker, but if I'm the one that you're talking to all the time, I'm going to miss deadlines. I'm going to drop balls, not because I'm trying to, but I'm handling all these other things. You don't want me doing that. And I've trained my people really well to be able to represent my ideas, my philosophy, all that stuff. And so one of the things that I immediately started doing, Richard, was I just said, look, I don't work on the product anymore. I'll do sales, but I don't touch the accounts. And I would tell clients that very directly. They'd be like, Dave, we're looking to get these results. Here's what we've been talking about with and I'm like, hey, cool. Have you talked with your account manager? Or I just forward it on back to their account manager. Hey, Bob reached out to me again. I'm going to let you handle it. And I just wouldn't take it. I just would straight up not work with those people. And then eventually what I started to do, Richard, was I got out of sales because now the clients don't even know me. They may get a video from me saying, hey, but I'm not doing their sales process. They may hear me on a podcast, which is great. And they may say, hey, I want to work with Dave's team because Dave seems like a good guy that works hard and I hope his team does too. Great. But they're probably not going to have a personal relationship with me in any substantive way. And so that was one of the other ways that I really went about it too, Richard, was I just went, hey, how can I go out? And it's that old adage of, hey, you got to work on the business, not in the business to be a great owner. And a lot of people, especially early on, what they've done is they've traded, if they're working with clients or customers, they've traded one boss for a bunch of different bosses. Because if they're having it, in your example of the GNC thing, man, that guy had 1,000 different bosses. If he wasn't there, sales weren't going to happen. Well, that's not great. What should have happened was him saying to his customers, and I'm not trying to pick on him, it's just a good example, but I would have been like, look, I've been training Richard for several years now. Richard knows more than I do. And so one of the gifts that you can give your employees and yourself as an entrepreneur is to build up your staff to your customers and clients and tell them, listen, Richard's the real badass, man. Like, I just sit back and do the numbers. I'm just here to be the consultant, or as I like to say it now, man, I'm the guru in the mountains. Whenever there's a problem, there's a fire, what do we do? Then I show up. Outside of that, the team is running your stuff day to day. So you don't want to talk to me. You want to talk to the team.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what he did. And that's how he ran it until I had to medically retire. So now let me ask you a question, because I took a course, an 8-week course on digital marketing, and I took the course because I said it was bullshit. Took the course. I'm like, there's no way. And I'm being honest.
No, I love it, man. I love it.
There's no way this stuff works. It's all BS.
Yep.
So I took the course from my friends at Operation Veteran Freedom. I took the course and I graduated. I think it was like my birthday, January 30th. And I put out my first ad, and my father passes like 2 weeks later. And I'm off the grid for 2 weeks because I'm trying to handle family stuff.
Yeah.
But I look at my bank account. There's money coming in. 24 hours, 7 days a week. And I'm like, damn it. They were right. And I never realized how important having evergreen products. And not only that, but, like this phone that I'm talking through right now. When I was with GNC, we made money when the doors opened, and we stopped when the doors closed.
Yeah.
But with digital marketing, this door never closes. So talk to us about what digital marketing and sales is like in 2022, going into 23.
Yeah. So here's what's funny, y'all. And by the way, so by the time I graduated high school, because my dad was in the Air Force, my dad's big joke when he was in the Air Force was anytime that they station him somewhere, they're going to shut down the squadron or the base, because it happened so many times. I lived in 15 different houses in 13 different cities between the age of being born and graduating high school, but I still sound like I'm from Texas, I say y'all. So anyways, it's so funny, Richard, because one of the things that's happening in late 22 into 23 is that people are freaking out about a recession. And I say that with intent because the GDP results just came back. We were up 2.6% in Q3 compared to last year. There's no recession. It's all just talk. It's all fear. So one of the things that happens when people become afraid is we need to understand what we need to do in order to overcome some of that fear. And a lot of times what that looks like is, hey, listen, we're going to make what I call outrageous offers. Offers that sound too good to be true to the consumer or to the business that's making the purchase, but are actually a great deal for the person or the business that's offering it, right? And so a lot of the stuff that I do, I offer money back guarantees on everything. I offer guarantees on all sorts of stuff, or I'll work for free or whatever. I put all sorts of packs, and I'll talk more about the outrageous offers here in a second. But as we're moving in through digital marketing in 22 and 23, people want to know that you're a credible, reliable source, of course. But they also need to know that you're going to get them results, because right now, and the result could be that you're going to power wash their driveway and make it look really nice. That it could be any result that you're looking for here, but they need to know that they're going to see that. So there's a few different ways that you can do that, but one of them is saying, hey, listen, satisfaction guarantee, return on investment guarantee. We're going to get you X amount of results. Whatever that looks like for your industry, that's going to be vital. The offers that we create are really important. And it's so funny, man, because I have this conversation a lot. I'm like, think about the biggest companies on the planet. AT&T. AT&T right now, if you switch from any other provider to AT&T, they'll give you iPhones for every person that's moving over. Brand new iPhone 14s. Well, those cost, at retail $1,000 a piece. If you're going to get them wholesale, it's probably about $500-600 a piece. So they're looking at it, this huge multi-billion-dollar company, publicly traded. So they have to have the finances right. And they're going, yeah, it's totally worth it for a family of 4 to switch over to us, for us to spend $2,000 to $2,400 on that family and have them locked in for a 2-year agreement where we're making $200 a month, $250 a month off them. So they're doing offers. As small business owners, we have to be that savvy as well. By the way, Costco does this with rotisserie chickens. They put the rotisserie chicken at the very back of Costco, right next to what? Their high margin items. They've got other prepared food where they've got good margin on it. They've got their beer and wine right next to it too, high margin. What happens when people go in and spend that $4.99 on a rotisserie chicken that costs Costco $9.50 to produce? Man, they end up walking out of the store with another $150 to $200 worth of stuff, right? And so there was a study that came out last year about those rotisserie chickens on its own. They lost $20 million on them last year, but they figured out that in the 20 million that they lost, they made over another 115 million in profit. So we have to be smart and savvy in the digital marketing space. How are we presenting ourselves? What's the desired perception that we want our customers to have of us? And what are some offers that are going to help us really move the dial to get more customers coming in so that we can show them, prove to them our products and services are really as great as we say they are?
You know, and I love that. And that's something that I learned. And you know, obviously, I'm a ninth grade dropout. I've read over 6,000 books. I think I got 14 books going now at one time. But, you know, I didn't start learning about, you know, real sales until my brother Russell Brunson put out the trilogy series. And it's so important.
Love Russell.
I mean, you know, it's so important. Even if you like him, people like him, they don't like him. The stuff that he teaches in those books, it's so important to realize how you know, like you said, some people, I personally, we came out with our own coffee this year.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's not a high margin product.
Right.
But that's okay. But if you buy the coffee cups with it and then so on and so forth,
yep,
you know, then it makes sense to do it.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of people, like when I first started my first podcast, which I'm a low-tech redneck, bro. Really, I am. I had over 300 episodes and it wasn't even on Apple. I didn't even know about it. And it was called Success, Your Why Powers Your How. And somebody once said to me, you're like, bro, how are you going to put that on a t-shirt? And I'm like, So a lot of people, they start out in an unscalable business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
About that a little bit. Like sometimes it could be so niche that it's not scalable.
Yeah, and it happens a lot. I mean, there was a guy that I know that a few years back, he had this great little business where he sold remnant advertising space in newspapers. And he just kept increasing how many people, everyone wanted to buy this. And he had a huge market saturation. But I think it was probably 4 years ago now. He said, Dave, I just can't figure it out. Every year we have more and more market saturation, and every year I lose more clients. And I sat down with him and I go, well, hey, man, what's happening in the newspaper space? And he goes, well, they're dying. I go, yeah, how fast? Well, they're 25% of newspapers every year are closing their doors to never reopen them. So there are fewer and fewer newspapers, which means the people that want to advertise in print, they're going to bigger and bigger locations, which means there are fewer remnant ad locations available for all of his customers. And I said, listen, brother, you've got a sweet model. And if it was 30 years ago, you'd be crushing it. I said, but now your target audience is just continuing to dwindle. So one of the things that I love about, anything that has to do with business is it's really all about strategy, sitting down and thinking it out, planning it out, right? So I love to look at it and I go, okay, what's the pie in the sky opportunity here? One of the clients that I worked with for a long time is a guy that has taught power washing, owns power washing companies, and is very successful. He has, I think, between the 5 companies that he owns, they're probably doing 12 to 15 million a year. And he works with a lot of veterans because it's a good source of income for anyone, and you can get after it and grow a 7-figure business through that. And one of the things that he and I talked about a lot when it came to strategy and how he did his power washing business was he said, I started to realize early on that most people that are individuals cannot afford, nor do I want to chase after them to buy my services of power washing their front driveway and their sidewalk and what have you. He said, but I did realize that the best place to go make the most money was going and talking with businesses that needed it on a regular basis. So one of his first aha moments was to realize, man, what are some people or businesses that have to have power washing done to stay in business? So one of them is any sort of restaurant that has a dumpster pad. Those things get nasty. And so he just would go to the businesses, the restaurants, he'd say, look, for $200 a month, we'll come out, we'll clean that dumpster pad for you so it won't smell like just hot garbage all the time when your customers are going to come in and want to eat food. They don't want to be disgusted by those smells. And we'll just put you guys on a cycle. So then he was able to have recurring monthly revenue that he could count on and customers that were already built in. He needed to sell them one time, and then they just kept going with them. Another one that was similar to that, and this was his other epiphany, he goes, well, I wonder what other things they could need. Well, every restaurant in America has to have their hood vents that go out of the restaurant cleaned professionally every month by law. So what he said was, he went, well, dude, I already have a relationship with the Chick-fil-A. They've got a hood vent. What if I start training my guys that are cleaning the dumpster pads how to do soft washing, which is a similar process. It's a little bit different. And then they can do some hood vent cleaning and I make money there. And so a lot of times it's thinking, how can I work smarter, not harder? What if I could take this customer and turn them into another thing? So a way that other industries do this, if you own a gym, don't just have the gym. You're also going to do what? Personal training. But a lot of that money is going to go to your personal trainer. One thing that you could do, though, that's going to make you a lot more money is selling supplements. Hey, listen, I got some supplements. These are the ones that I use. And if you're in great shape, people are going to be like, well, there you go. Richard's got it. And so it's one of those things where it's like, man, if we start to look at it and we go, all right, well, how can I work smarter about this? And what is the total addressable market that's helpful? And then the other side of this is, what's the worst case scenario? Like, not that no one buys your product, but what would be the thing that would make it so that it's more challenging? And a lot of times what ends up happening, especially in an economic downturn, and I'm putting that in quotes because there isn't one. It's just all media hype. It's all BS, y'all. Is that the thing that'll happen in the downturn is that people will start to pinch pennies and they'll only purchase things that they think are vital to their success or that are vital to their life. And they may do some things where they'll feel like it's a nice little respite, perhaps, right? Going out to eat is an example of this. Man, life's crazy. Even if I think that there's an economic downturn, I'll still go out to eat. Why? Because it's a good little morale booster. For the fam. And so we have to start to understand how we need to present and position products and services in this time as well.
Okay, now I wrote something down because, and I want to ask you about it because I love Chick-fil-A. I'm a Chick-fil-A guy. I love their all their stuff. I love their shakes, but most of all, their customer service is way beyond anything I've ever seen, except for one company. Now, I'm the world's okayest guitar player, and I ordered something off a company called Sweetwater. Now, I'm not going to say this, and I think what I ordered was maybe $50 worth of stuff.
Yep.
They sent me like $150 worth of products.
Yep.
And when I opened the box, I was just in shock, and I thought it was a mistake, so I did it again, and they over-delivered every time I've ever ordered anything like that. And it's like, for me, like if I say, I'm going to have you come on the show, I'm going to promote your episode on 12 different platforms. You're going out on 15 or 20, the hell out of it to give more value than I say I am. And my friend Steve Sims was on last week, and he talks about how you should always under-promise and over-deliver. And that's how it differentiates between you and Chick-fil-A or me and Sweetwater. So talk about that. Talk about customer service.
Yeah. The moment that you sell a customer is the moment that they have a seed of doubt in their mind if they made a right decision. And so one of the things that's great about, talking about Chick-fil-A or Sweetwater, there's a lag between when you put your card down and when you get your product. One of the things that's beautiful about how Chick-fil-A does it, and obviously it's happening in real time because you're talking with real people, there's a very genuine sense of you being seen and heard and paid attention to by whoever's taken your order. And then very smartly, Chick-fil-A almost always at every location I've ever been to, they have somebody or several people that are going around and making sure that customers are getting what they need. Hey, can I help you with your drink order? Do you need some sauces? What are they doing? They're seeing you. And so much of the world right now, Richard, is we're not seeing each other. And I think that that's a big issue in society. It's we've reduced each other down to who we voted for in the last dadgum election. And it's like, no, man, we're whole people that have whole lives that are challenging and hard and beautiful and wonder. And if you get to see that, then you get to create a beautiful connection. And that's one of the things that I love about going to Chick-fil-A is, man, I've got a family of 5. I show up, it's automatically recognized by whoever that floating person or people are. Hey, this is a family with young kids. Let's make sure that they get what they need and that they can get to their seat and that mom and dad aren't having to run around, that they can actually enjoy their meal. And so that's one of the things that my wife and I enjoy whenever we go, man, is it's like we feel like someone else is looking out for us in a time where outside of family, man, it just doesn't feel that way. When it comes to the Sweetwater interaction, I love what they did there too, where it's like, hey, we see that you made a purchase. We see that this is the first purchase you've ever made with us. We want to honor and acknowledge that by sending you more stuff. Well, what did you do? You've talked about it at least this one time. I bet you've talked about it more than this. And so, one of the things that we do for some of our businesses, Richard, because when we have companies that make a purchase or we have somebody start the flight school, one of the first things that we do is we celebrate that they're making a decision for themselves or their company to grow, right? So it's like when people start at the flight school and they're starting a $90,000 program and it's going to take them 11 months to complete it. It's not a small thing. It's a big investment of time and money and energy. We have a party. We celebrate. We give them an iPad. We give them all this stuff. We spend about $6,500 on them. That's all from our profit to give them stuff that is going to help them be successful in their flight school experience and in their career. And they feel seen and heard. We give them nice t-shirts that are really expensive. They're like the Coleman shirts is what they are. And we got, printed stuff on them. They look super cool. So you want to wear them out and about. It's not just a thing that you're going to throw away. And one of the other things that we do for the other companies is we'll send them something fun in the mail. We'll shoot a video of different people, and we all work remote. So we'll interstitch all these videos together and then shoot it to them and just say, hey, we're excited to get started with you. And so a lot of what we do is celebrating that people are making the decisions that they're making that are going to be beneficial for their life, their health, their business, their family. And isn't that what we all want, man? Just to be told, like, I see you. I know that this is a lot. We're here to support you. How can we help you? And that's what customer service comes down to.
And I love it. And now last couple minutes, for me, it seems like you are kind of like me. You have a lot of gratitude. You have that attitude of gratitude. And I just want to talk for a couple of minutes because my brother, James Clear, wrote a book called Atomic Habits. And it talks about how 40 to 60% of your day is all habit driven. And how if you want to have a great day, a lot of it is predicated on your evening ritual and your morning ritual. So talk to us about, you personally. What is your morning ritual and what is your evening ritual like to set you up for success the next day?
That's a great question. I love it, Richard. And I love Atomic Habits. Great book. So for me, I love to start my day out pretty simply. I like to wake up in the morning, not look at my phone for at least an hour, which a lot of people don't do that, or they look at TV or something. Don't watch TV. Don't get on. That's just my own personal experience. I find that my cortisol levels go up the minute that I start to engage with my devices. And so I don't like to do that. Wake up in the morning. I meditate 20, 30 minutes. You can pray. It's the same thing, y'all. It's the same benefit. Praying and meditation has the same effect on our brains and our bodies. It's a beautiful thing that you can do, whether you're religious or not. It's so centering and helpful. So I like to meditate in the morning. And then I love to read, man. Like actually picking up a physical book and reading changes your mindset. It actually is different. And now, listen, if there are some people who are like, I don't like to read or they struggle to read, there's a lot of studies that have come out that show that audiobooks give us the same benefit as of
Yeah.
physically reading that book. So don't be embarrassed if you're like, I can't read. Don't worry about it. Listen to an audiobook instead. Have that be the one app that you pull up on your phone or whatever
Yeah.
that you just pop your headphones in and go. And so that's kind of how I run my morning. I love to make coffee. Oh, one of the things I love to do, man, make coffee before my wife. I always get up before anybody else, you know? And so I love to make, there you go. I love to get up, make good coffee for my wife. I get mine all prepped. I get hers all prepped. She's still in bed. I'll go put her coffee on the nightstand next to our bed. So the first thing that she wakes up, because I know what's going to happen every morning, she's going to stay in bed until my kiddos come jump in there with her. And so I want her to have them jump in there with her, get some snuggles with her, and then she can just roll over, grab that cup of coffee, and get going with her day. So I spend my morning centering myself, taking care of my wife, who is, God, she's my world, man. I love that woman to pieces. And then in the evening, what I try and do is I love to grill. I love to smoke meat and all sorts of good stuff. I smoked some fondue last night. Ooh, it's to die for. And then I will do kind of bedtime stuff with the kiddos. And I love to work out if I can before I get to that point. So sometimes I'll cut out of work at 3 o'clock, get a lift in, go sit in my sauna, and then kind of kick off the evening routine from there into dinner and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, those habits really work.
I do a lot of what you do, but for me, like they say, well, don't watch any blue lights or don't play any video games before you go to bed. For me, I'm a big I love basketball. I'm a basketball freak, and I make sure
Ditto.
that I'm going to drop a triple double before I go to bed at night. So I feel like, all right, I'm in charge. I'm crushing it. So I wake up the next morning I feel pumped already because I'm already
Yeah.
thinking about winning the next day.
Bingo. Yeah.
But one thing I also do is I also say my prayers and I say, Lord, I say thank you for my wife, and I hold my hand and I pray over her. But I also say three things that I'm grateful for that happened that day, and it just keeps me
Mm,
centered. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, but I think a lot of people need to really stop watching the news. That's the worst thing you can actually do is watch the news. Like I listen to audio. I love audio books. I do my cardio. I'm
Likewise.
listening to a book by Robert
Yep.
Cialdini right now, Influence, great book.
Yep. Great
But
book.
a lot of people don't realize that, if you say you can't afford a mentor, your brain doesn't know whether that person's there next to you or just in your ear. So that's another
Yeah.
great way to get some mentorship. Brother, I just want to say I'm truly humbled and grateful to be able to finally catch up because I know it's been crazy. Our schedules trying to jam together. I'm so grateful for you.
Oh, likewise, Richard. What you're doing with this podcast and all your other work is remarkable, and super thankful to be here with you, brother.
So, last question is how do we find you? How do we support your mission? If we're a new company or a company that's crushing it, how do we be able to work with you in the future?
Yeah. So, well, if you want to find me on social media, almost every handle, like social media handle that I have out there, is at Real Dval. So RealDval. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You can find me in all the places. If you're really looking for some, hey Dave, I want some good content that's going to help me change my business habits and where we're going. TikTok's where it's at. I really do post there multiple times a day and have a good little following there. And then the last thing is I'd love to give your listeners a freebie if that's cool, Richard.
Oh, I'd be so blessed and honored.
I've got, so one of the things I talked about was putting together those outrageous offers. Well, I've put together this. I usually charge $2,500 to come to a workshop. Takes 90 minutes to go through those outrageous offers and how to create them. But what I did was I put together an e-course that I'd love to give your listeners for free. They can go to davevalentine.co/OO.
Dave
OO for
dots.
outrageous offer.
Go slow again.
davevalentine.co
Okay.
/OO for outrageous offer. And they can go there, and it's 7 modules. I take you through how to do it in each piece. It's really nicely produced by my marketing team, and it's your gift for free. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, these outrageous offers are why we're able to grow companies from 0 to 7 figures in 6 months to a year. It's because people latch onto these offers, they find them highly valuable, and then it's really duplicatable. Anyone can do it. Yeah, you can find more there. And then if all those fail and you still want to reach out to me about something, you can. My personal email address is david@rethinkcreative.org, and just drop the name of the podcast in the email, and we can chat privately.
Brother, I just want to say thank you. I'm truly humbled by that. I'm so thankful. I know you got to go. I know it's a beautiful Monday. I'm sure you want to spend some time with the family and the kids. So I just want to say thank you. I'm truly humbled and grateful just to call you friend.
Likewise, Richard. Thanks for the chat, man.
All right, brother. Love you. Be good. Guys, remember, make sure you check him out. He's truly amazing. He's got a lot of great things going on. And guys, like my t-shirt says, today I decide. Guys, you make the decision whether you win or whether you lose. So take Dave up on that offer, make that decision, and I'll drop that in the links. This way you can actually get that outrageous offer. All right, guys, I love you. I will check you out tomorrow. Remember, guys, vertical momentum. The only way to go is but up. I love you guys. Dave, have a great week, brother.
Thanks, man.